one of the greatest days in Masters history. Plain and simple.
Ridiculous fondling cardboard.
What is up? Welcome back to Fondling Cardboard. I'm your host, Mike Lakusta, aka the Golf Card Collector. Man, the Masters is almost here and I can smell the magnolias. And that's such a silly phrase. I've honestly used it too much in the last 2 days. But here in Calgary, where it just snowed again, it looked like spring was coming and suddenly there's 10 centimeters of snow on the ground. I can't actually smell any flowers. But I do have an exciting episode for you today. We have an interview with Barnett to talk about a preview of some of the golfers that are going to be playing in the Masters and their trading cards. We'll be getting to a little bit of LIV and PGA because they rarely come together, except for major championships are the occasion, especially the Masters. We're going to talk about some of our favorites for winning the Masters, some Darkhorse picks lurking in the shadows, and why doesn't Scottie Scheffler have cards? I feel like that's something I'm going to talk about in a lot of episodes. But before we get into that, I've noticed eBay is flooded with golf cards lately, and they've really been catching my attention. They're triggering my save searches. They are tempting to bid on, tempting to submit offers or buy it now. But I have to keep reminding myself that the Masters week is the high point of golf cards. That's the peak of pricing. But on the flip side, so many cards are coming out of the woodwork. And so, if you end up having to spend an extra 20%, assuming it's not an incredibly expensive card, but it's something that never pops up the rest of the year, that's just a seller who's saying, I'm probably willing to sell this card at the right price at the right time. And now's that time. So don't be afraid to let high prices keep you from buying cards. If you're a collector like me, you're going to be okay setting a new record high. Just get that card you want. Exciting announcement. We have the first annual, I don't know if it's going to be annual or not, but the first ever Fondling Cardboard Masters pool. And I'm really excited about this because I've been running a Masters pool for friends and family and coworkers and customers for the past 5 years. And I found a way to make it really fun because I got some friends of mine who are strong software engineers, smarter than I am in that area, and had them help me develop a spreadsheet linking all these forms together and collecting data from the internet live as the Masters is going on. So hole by hole, I have a spreadsheet that's basically a pool leaderboard for all of the members of my pools. So at any time on your phone, you can just pull up Google Sheets, which is the spreadsheet, and you can take a look at the leaderboard and see if you're winning. If you manage to be able to watch a little bit of the Masters, it creates a bit of extra excitement because you can not only cheer for the guys you like, but you can have the leaderboard open on your phone or your computer and see how their performance is affecting your standings. And if you're not able to watch it all, it's just kind of nice to have that open, kind of like an app on your phone. Just kind of watch how the leaderboard's bouncing up and down. And there's different tabs. So you can even just see what the general leaderboard is for the actual golfers playing in the Masters. So traditionally, I was doing like an office pool style of thing. Everybody gives me $20. I divvy up the money for a couple winners at the end of it. But this year I decided to do something special. I'm doing the Fondling Cardboard Masters pool. And what this is golf card prizes. And I've already announced in the Golf Cards and Memorabilia Facebook group that once we get to 10 entries, I will be offering my Grand Slam Ventures Tiger Woods rookie, graded in an SGC 9, which is a very good grade. I was actually just chatting with somebody from the Golf Cards and Memorabilia Facebook group who said he has 5 copies of this card, and it sounded like he had a couple PSA 8s, some PSA 7s, a BGS 8.5. But once you get that number 9 on your grade, now you're edging into something pretty good. In terms of prizes, everybody who joins the pool is going to get some kind of prize. So even the person that comes dead last place, I'm going to be shipping you some sort of golf cart in the mail. The actual makeup of what kind of higher end cards are going to be in really just depends on how many people join. So as people are filling out the registration form, I'm going to be making some announcements on more cards that I'm adding to the pool. And yeah, heck, maybe once we get to 20 or 25 entries, I might have to throw in my other Tiger Woods rookie, the Sports Illustrated for Kids SGC 3.5. So maybe that's a little spoiler. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll add that in. And in addition to the actual prizes for your performance in the pool, I'm going to be doing some random draw prizes, because I just think that waiting till the very end of a pool to kind of announce who's the winner, it's not really my scene. I mean, those of you who have joined my pools in the past, you'll know I like to send out recaps after rounds 1, 2, and 3, links to, some highlights from the pool, who's performing well, who are the top picks in the pool, and how are those players doing. And so part of those evening recaps, I would like to basically offer a draw prize to a random participant in the pool. And it'll, of course, be golf cart themed. And as for how the pool actually works, basically you just send me $20 Canadian, or I guess $15 US. You pick 6 golfers. There are pods, meaning I've separated all of the field of the Masters into 6 tiers, and you can only pick one player from each of those tiers. So you can't just pick the top 6 golfers in the world. It's going to be one of those guys, and then a tier 2 player, tier 3 player, etc., all the way till the bottom of the field. The way that the pool is scored is your combined golfer's score total relative to par. Super easy. If they're all even par, you're sitting at even. If you got 2 guys at -5 and 1 guy at +1 and 1 guy at even, then your score is -9. And only your top 4 golfers' scores count. So that means you got 2 dusters out of your crew. One of your guys drops out, withdraws, the other one misses the cut. You don't have to worry about it. Their scores won't count. If you're interested in learning more about the pool, you can check it out in a few different places. The easiest is probably on my Instagram page at The Golf Card Collector. There is a Linktree link in my bio. Click that and all the pool details are in there. If you're in the Golf Cards and Memorabilia Facebook group, I just made a post about it with all the details and where you can sign up. Or for those of you who aren't on social media at all, you can go to the website linktr.ee/fondling cardboard. Before we get into the interview, there's actually a couple of mailbag questions this week. Doc Kennedy says, I picked up a golf cards lot, and included are roughly 300 of the Payne Stewart Pro Set rookies. I plan to go through and grade the ones I'm most confident will grade well. What should I do with the rest? Sell as a lot or individually? You know what, Doc, this is a tough question because I didn't know this card very well. I just did a quick search on eBay. Looks like there's 2 variations. There's a 1990 Pro Set NFL special insert set, which is green. And there's the 1990 PGA Tour Pro Set Payne Stewart, which is kind of goldy brown, I guess, in color. They are cool cards, but it just seems like they sell for, $1 or $2. In eBay's recent sales, I can see the gold one as a PSA 10 was listed for $107 US, and a best offer was accepted. So that's the gold PSA 10, so the actual golf pro set. And then there was a green PSA 9, which sold for $45, and a green BGS 9.5, which is supposed to be equivalent to a PSA 10. And that was also listed just over $100, and a best offer was accepted. And that one was only a pop 6. So there's only 6 of that copy in the world, graded BGS 9.5. Now, if you have 300 of them, of course you've got a good chance that some are in good condition, perhaps grade worthy at a PSA 8, PSA 9, possibly a PSA 10, or BGS 9, maybe BGS 9.5. But my line of thinking is the grading costs are pretty severe. And even if you're lucky to get 1 or 2 gem mints. I wonder how many you would actually have to send in to get lucky to get some of those grades. Like I see a PGA, the gold version, SGC 9 sold for $19.31. That probably wouldn't even really cover your grading fees. Now, I'm not knocking the card. This is actually a really cool card. And I even see in some of these sales, there's a couple autographed versions of this selling for less than $100. And so that's the kind of card that I would love. I mean, obviously you can't get Payne's autograph anymore because of his tragic accident. But if I were to want one of his rookie cards, you know, this just being a bit of like a junk wax card, I would be looking for one with his autograph on it. Now, I know that doesn't help you. What do you do with all your extra 300 cards? Well, I mean, if you really want to grind it out, you could list them on eBay or just do a single listing that has multiple quantity and just let people buy them for $1 each. And I mean, maybe over a course of a year or two, you could sell 100 of them and make $100, although eBay is going to take whatever, 18% of that. You're going to have to pay for a $1 or $2 stamp to ship it out. So, you know, at the end of the day, you should just use them as wallpaper in your bedroom. All right, and the second question is from Adam Verthaler. And Adam says, the most recent release of Upper Deck Golf includes Young Guns, which is cool. The clear cut parallel is a chase, and I recently picked up an Upper Deck Exclusives clear cut of Max Homa, but cannot find the odds of the Upper Deck exclusive Young Gun clear cut anywhere. Is this intentional from Upper Deck, or has this checklist odds not been released? So to answer this question, I actually had to ask our good friend James Peacock, who has opened some of this 2024 Upper Deck product, a lot more than I have, which is 0. And James said he doesn't even know about it, hasn't seen any information, didn't even know it existed until he saw one on eBay. And so I don't have information to share, but I can tell you it wouldn't be the first time that a manufacturer has slipped in an exclusive rare parallel that isn't on the checklist. And it just depends on who's actually maintaining checklists these days. Because, you know, Cardboard Connection was having their struggles, and I don't even know if they're keeping things up to date. So I guess Beckett is really the only one. And we all know how great Beckett is doing these days. I love their slabs, but I wouldn't want them to run a business for me. But regardless, Adam, that sounds like a sweet card. Congrats on the awesome pickup. And Max Homa is actually shockingly one of the most popular players in this set. I know my buddy James Peacock is from the same area and, you know, maybe had some personal connections, maybe golfing around Max Homa. And so I thought it was going to be just that, just the local Southern California guys wanting to collect their guy. But no, it really seems like he's a very popular young gun in this set. All right, now without further ado, here's the interview.
Fondling Cardboard, thanks so much for being here with me this morning. With the Masters coming up in just a couple of weeks, April 11th through April 14th, we've got some stuff to talk about, particularly as it relates to the sports card market, and I'm excited to have you on here. We've talked a lot about how passionate you are with golf cards. Like I mentioned, Thursday, April the 11th will be the first day of the Masters. Kind of kicks off our major tournament season in terms of the golf world. And majors, of course, are interesting to see as of late with the live golf players kind of mixing in with the PGA guys, as that's kind of the only time they get to do so. Curious to get your take on what you think the Masters does for golf card prices. Do you expect the hype to do anything to kind of increase prices? What are your thoughts there?
100%. I mean, the Masters is at the beginning of the golf season, so it's hard for people who collect other sports to understand that it basically is like the Super Bowl of golf. So I guess golf runs it front heavy with their events. And then obviously major season starts with the Masters, and that carries through whatever, June or July. And then after that, we've got the playoffs for the FedEx Cup. Live Golf follows, I guess, a similar schedule, like in terms of times of the year. So if you were to look at like a seasonality, you know, football, for example, fall, things ramp up. And then after a month or two, you start to figure out who the breakouts are, and their prices have kind of jumped and started to settle. Whereas once you get into February, March, then things reach a climax and then kind of fall off a cliff. Right now in golf, we're just basically petering up that roller coaster. And I think prices, I mean, I don't talk investing, flipping all that often. So
Right.
take everything I say with a grain of salt. I only really look for, I guess, value for building my PC and buying cards at the right price, which is, I guess, what investors and flippers do as well. So yeah, I think right now prices have already started to go up, and I think Masters is going to be a great time for people to sell.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So when we obviously you're very well versed in the golf world. When we talk about Masters favorites, that's something that me and Paul kind of look at in terms of trying to buy guys, maybe flyer picks, obviously from the investment side, maybe flyer picks that can perform well and get performance based hype induced spikes there. But from your end, who are your favorites for the Masters and why?
Well, you mentioned flyer picks. Now, flyers are not going to be the favorites. So I'll start with favorites and then let's get into some flyers. But,
Sure.
and I'll separate this by live and PGA. So starting with the bad guys, so to speak, the live guys that I would say have the best shot, obviously Brooks Koepka is the modern day, maybe like a Gary Player. Like he's got, I think, 5 majors, and he doesn't look like he's done. Never count Brooks Koepka out. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a great selection of cards, basically just a Sports Illustrated for Kids card. Of course, that will change once the Panini releases start coming out, and that's one of the reasons I'm most excited, is that Brooks Koepka is a phenomenal golfer. He's controversial, which comes with a limelight, so there will always be eyes on him, and we're going to start getting some pretty nice sets of his cards. Joaquin Niemann, although not a significant player so far in the majors, I would say is maybe top 6 player in the world. And that obviously doesn't show up in the world rankings list because live players don't get world rankings points. However, he has been busting his butt. He's not taking the typical live golfer route of taking this fat paycheck and playing in like 10 events a year and just living the easy life. He's traveling around the world. He's playing, I forget exactly what tours he's been on, but he's playing whenever he can on in Asian tours and all around the world. Certainly caught the eye because he received an invitation to play in the Masters, even though he didn't have meet the formal requirements. And he's, I think, got one of the better chances of winning it. Now, do you want to get into flyers?
Yeah, let me. I want to go through the first 2 guys you mentioned. I love both of those picks, starting with Neiman. I think he fired a 59 in Mexico just a couple of weekends ago. Definitely has the game. He's got a really controlled swing. And I think he moves it both ways pretty well, which at Augusta obviously is something you look for. I know obviously it favors a draw off the tee for right-handed players, but he's just got the complete bag, in my opinion. Short games, precise putts, rolls the ball well, and really long off the tee and straight. And then obviously, like you're saying, Brooks Koepka is just hard to bet against. Finished second last year at Augusta after holding the 54-hole lead. He's kind of that just major dominant guy that you just expect to show up and perform well at all majors that you see. So love both of those picks from you. But let's roll into your favorites.
Right on. And by the way, another guy, Phil Mickelson, he tied with Brooks for second at Masters. Now, I don't think he's going to do a repeat like that, whereas I think Brooks has a good chance. And then, you know what, before I actually get into the flyers, the other favorites I have obviously are from the PGA Tour, arguably, top tier tour in the world. So Augusta is a super tough course. And I think somebody who's performed really well there in the past is probably going to have a good chance. And obviously Scotty Scheffler is world number 1. He won the Masters last year. He's in phenomenal form. He just came off a win at the Players. Some might say it was a bit of a lucky win, but regardless, it was a really exciting tournament to watch. He had 3 guys nipping at the heels, came from behind. He was not the overnight leader. Shot like a 64 in a final round. So this is the kind of guy who can run away with the show, and with that proven track record. But other than him, a couple international golfers that I think are going to be right at the top of the leaderboard. As a Canadian, I've always got my eye on Corey Connors as well as the rest of the Canadians. The reason I pick him is that he has that track record. I think he's qualified for the Masters, I think for four years in a row. If we dial it back to his first appearance, he did not qualify up until about, I think, 3 or 4 days before the Masters week really starts on that Monday. And he was a Monday qualifier. I think was at the Valero Texas Open. Regardless, he was a Monday qualifier for that PGA event. and then he won the PGA event in order to get into the Masters. So
Right.
talk about from rags to riches type of scenario, and then he ended up sticking around top of the leaderboard basically I think 3 out of the 4 years he's played there. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I want to say, if my memory's right, about maybe 2 top 10 finishes, really strong chances. And the neat thing about Corey Connors is that 2024 Upper Deck Golf does have him, as well as I believe the upcoming Upper Deck Golf releases. So he's actually got some legit cards coming out, whereas Scotty Scheffler obviously isn't going to have those Panini cards because he's on the PGA Tour, not on Live. Scotty has never been included in any Upper Deck or Leaf releases, so Scotty's someone we got to get a Sports Illustrated for Kids card, similar to John Rahm and a few other amazing golfers. And then lastly, to finish off my international picks, Hideki Matsuyama. And I'm not picking these guys because I'm international. I don't live in the U.S. I'm picking these guys because I think they truly do have the best shot. Hideki shot something insane, like a 61 or 62 or something like that to win at, I think it was the Genesis about a month ago, when Tiger Woods made his season debut, and Hideki just surprises everyone. Looking back at the players, I saw him near the top, maybe 11th or something like that. So I think he's got an amazing shot. Also a past Masters winner.
I love it. Yeah, good picks all around, I think. And one of the reasons I'm obviously so big on Scotty is the stats that we've seen show that relative to the field, he's having about as an elite year and run of last few months of ball striking as Tiger Woods did in 2001, right? So, and then you pair that with the fact that in the last 2 weeks, after Rory McIlroy said he needs to switch to a mallet, Scotty switches to a mallet and wins back-to-back weeks. Yeah, tough to bet against Scotty there. Love the pick of Corey Connors. Like I mentioned, a guy that draws the ball off the tee, hits it accurately off the tee. He is currently 17th in strokes gained off the tee. So I love the pick there from Corey Connors as well. Very straight. So yeah, interesting picks there. I think that we got to find a way to get Scotty Scheffler a card that's worth investing in, right? What is that going to take? When do you think we'll see one from Scotty?
Man, I don't know. I've talked about this before on my podcast, Online Cardboard. Upper Deck just needs to figure out how to do a deal at the tour level as a league, similar to other sports like baseball, football, and etc. If they can, through the Players Association or whatever, because they're obviously not employees, they're independent contractors. Perhaps that's up for debate as well. But if somehow they can get the rights to name, image, and likeness of their tour members, and this doesn't have to be every player that has played on the PGA Tour or is currently playing in their events. It just has to be people who have a tour card. And if they can get just the name, image, and likeness, we just want cards. They don't have to be autographs. And that's the biggest thing, is these guys are demanding high compensation. And they don't want to sit there for 10 hours signing thousands of autographs. And I get that. All we want is some cards, some young guns, maybe some gold parallels, whatever. And I guess you asked me, when's that going to happen? I don't have a prediction. I really hope that what Panini is doing might kick Upper Deck into action. And they might start to realize that it's not just about, getting 20 of the top 100 in the world, that they have to get everybody.
Yeah, well said. And speaking of guys that don't necessarily have cards right now, we're hoping to get cards from a lot of guys, but there are a lot of notables that I think have a good chance of winning the Masters this year that don't have cards. Who are some of your picks and notables to look out for that don't necessarily have cards yet, but have a good shot at taking home that trophy?
The hottest prospect in golf right now is Ludwig Oberg. I always mispronounce his name in my past podcasts. I call him Ludwig Aberg. So it's Ludwig Oberg. I forget where he's from, one of those Norway or Sweden or something like that. But this time last year, he was an absolute nobody. He was playing, I believe, college golf. He's in his early 20s and qualified for, I forget what event, and ended up winning a PGA event in one of his first showings. Only played, I think, in like maybe 12 events or less last year on the PGA Tour, and somehow was in the running for Rookie of the Year. And that's compared to guys like Eric Cole, who you grinded out like 30-something events. So I just look at Ludwig as the hottest prospect in golf. Obviously no cards yet because he's a youngin'. Whereas somebody like Xander Schauffele, It's obscene, an Olympic winner, an Olympian, not only Olympian, but a gold medal winner at the Olympics. He's been around for a long time. I don't know what his rookie season is, but I would guess maybe 8 years ago or more. Always, top 20-ish player in the world. Sometimes he broke into the top 10 at times, and he only has that Sports Illustrated for Kids card. This is a guy who I don't understand how Upper Deck doesn't have his rights. Like I said, doesn't have to be autographs, but just cards in general. Now, in terms of winning the Masters, he always seems to fall short. He never crosses the finish line to win events. I mean, he's got some wins on tour, but it seems like on the big stage, he drops the baton, using some Olympic slang there. And so he'd be a good pick for those of you who play daily fantasy sports, but I wouldn't necessarily choose him as the outright winner. And then lastly, on the PGA Tour, we got Wyndham Clark, who has been around for a little while, but he really didn't receive much hype early on. I think he's one of these guys, actually sort of like Brooks Koepka, who eased their way onto tour. I don't know exactly how he made it, whether it was Corn Ferry Tour or Web.com Tour, or whatever it was at the time when he was playing, and just sort of sat kind of middle of the leaderboard on most events. And somehow with his not only breakout win at the US Open, so he's now a major winner, but just ran away with it, just crushed the field. And he did the same thing within the last couple months at Pebble Beach. I forget exactly what he shot, but it was like a 60 even or something like that. The tournament was cut short because of weather, but he's been playing incredible. And then obviously tied second after Scotty at the Players last week. So Wyndham, I don't believe, has any cards, not even a Sports Illustrated for Kids. He's not in the upcoming releases. It's too bad to see some of these guys. Now, I'll mention a couple live golfers, and then I'll let you report on everything I just said. So Taylor Gooch, he's the hottest player that nobody cares about. So he won the Live Championship. He's their Player of the Year. He won event after event at Live. And I don't even know if he qualifies for the Masters. He's beating some of the best names in golf, the guys that play on Live. And other than golf nerds like us, nobody really knows him or gives it two cents about who he is. And then Bryson DeChambeau, he's always performing well on Live Tour, and he shoots a 58 at Greenbrier. He's got some amazing investable cards. So what do you say, Connor?
Yeah, a ton of good stuff here, as expected. Ludwig, another thing I wanted to add there is that he ended up making the Ryder Cup team, right? So he kind of has that extra level of experience, and kind of, you look at guys his age potential, you're like, okay, he's young, maybe he doesn't know how to win yet. He knows how to compete. He played against some of the top players in the world on one of the biggest stages for one of the most exciting events in golf. So I really like that pick there. And then Wyndham Clark, I don't know how much you've been keeping up with the Full Swing stuff that came out, but he basically had an episode dedicated strictly to him and his mental health, and how that kind of transformed his game. That was really, really interesting episode to watch there. So I'm a big Wyndham Clark guy at the moment, and hoping the strong play continues. It really seems like kind of kicking into gear for him was all mental, not really changing his swing or a physical thing there. So got to love that pick as well there. Bryson, yeah. I mean, you can't count Bryson out. It seems like, and I'm curious to see your thoughts here, it seems like he's kind of found that happy medium between just being a massive bodybuilder trying to hit at 450 and still kind of keeping some of that finesse and touch in his game. It seems like he's kind of in that middle ground, which makes me kind of like where his game's at. And he's actually, I can't believe I'm saying this, seems to be more likable the last few months, whether it's just because he's not in our face all the time, but whatever it may be there. So a lot of good names there. And also, I know you've got some dark horses for us. So let's talk dark horses, guys that maybe haven't quite broken through, but could see their career really take on a different trajectory pending a good performance at Augusta this year.
Yeah, I'll actually kick off with a name that I didn't have on my list originally, but since you brought up like mental health with Wyndham Clark, Joel Damon is a guy who was on the first season of Full Swing, and he's an extremely likable guy, which is important when it comes to cards. Wasn't the kind of golfer who would have ever had a card in the past. However, Full Swing really brought him into the limelight, and he just came tied 11th at the Players, so really good showing. And he does have cards in the 2024 Upper Deck sets, so I just wanted to throw him out there as an honorable mention. But getting into my actual top three kind of dark horses from the PGA Tour, Sahith Theegala. He's not exactly flying under the radar. A lot of guys have him on their lists when it comes to fantasy, when it comes to buying his cards, because he does have some sweet cards out there. 2022, I believe it was. Goodwin Champions. He's got some great cards from there, like the Platinum cards, different parallels. And then he's also got Metal Universe Champions 2022. So he's got PMGs, Retro Star Rubies, all that sort of stuff. And I think that was actually from 2021. So Sahith, second, I've got Maverick McNeely. Now, Maverick is somebody who I think is flying under the radar more so. He's got some amazing cards from the 2021 Upper Deck sets like Artifacts, SP Game Used, SP Authentic. And, you know, he also performed well at the Players recently. And he's one of these guys who is performing better than the middle of the pack. He's got some good tools in his game. And I think he could, the definition of Darkhorse in my eyes is he just has to have one showing. He just has to win one big event and suddenly he's going to be thrust into everybody's eyes. And then lastly, somebody who's totally under the radar, way more so than even Maverick, is Doug Kim. I remember pulling his cards back in 2021 and thinking, who the heck is this guy? And then I saw him playing in an event and he had a lead after the second round and then just fell down the leaderboard. And, you know, somebody who I think's had an up and down experience on the PGA Tour and has had a good start to his season, super cheap cards. So, you know, someone who I think could easily 4 or 5x if he were to just have some random success.
Yeah, I think Sahith Theegala for me here, like you're saying, he's not necessarily one that's overly under the radar just because of how well he's been playing. But man, he's already got 4 finishes in the top 10 this year, just this year. Wow. Game's really coming along. Looks like he's learning how to win. I think he's someone that's going to be a star on the tour for a long time. And if he performs well at Augusta this year, kind of cements himself as one of those elite guys in the world that people are going to be following and looking after. And if he's got investable cards, man, it could put him in a really good spot for people to make some money off of his prints there.
Right on. You want me to dive into a couple dark horses from Liv?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So kind of keeping with the mental health line, Joel Damon, Wyndham Clark, another guy that falls into that category is Matthew Wolff. Now, Matthew Wolff is one of these guys who started out as a hot prospect and then just fell off the map. Very, very different than somebody like Wyndham Clark. So although right now he is kind of in that valley when it comes to hype, prices, that sort of stuff, when I look at just any sport, any athlete, what is the recipe for an investable player and somebody who could potentially break out and potentially get a lot more eyes on them? It's somebody who had a lot of hype. Like, speaking in basketball terms, imagine if Zion Williamson were to just suddenly have a couple seasons injury-free and playing at, you know, his peak level like he was when he first joined the NBA. Right. People would be flocking to him and wanting his cards. Now, I'm going to say similarly with Matthew Wolff. He was the NCAA champion. It was a very iconic win for him, put him right on the map, won on the PGA Tour within his first few starts, and it was a really epic win too. It was a 20-something foot eagle putt over Bryson and Colin Morikawa, so was at the time separating himself ahead of a couple of stars who have come out to surpass him since. So I think if Matthew Wolff, even though he's playing on the Live Tour, if he were to go on a run with some wins, and you know what, I have to be 100% transparent here. I have a massive Matthew Wolff PC. He's one of my favorite players. So, you know, I'm not pumping and dumping. I'm just pumping because I love Matthew Wolff. Next, I'm going to get into a couple guys that I think other people would maybe be more drawn to. So Abraham Answer just won on Live Tour. He's got some great cards in 2021. He's a really solid player from Mexico. Somebody like that, I would cash out, meaning I would sell his cards if you weren't intending to keep them in your collection as soon as you were to have a big win. Or another thing is that both PGA Tour and Live Tour typically make a stop in Mexico, and that really thrusts Abraham Answer into the limelight because it would sort of be like his hometown event, and they may showcase him during coverage. They may he just gets a lot of extra hype. So those would be kind of the times to look at selling his cards. And actually, there's a cool personal connection, maybe not personal for me, but for a lot of people where I live. I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and there's a small town nearby called Lethbridge in southern Alberta, which is where Abraham Answer's caddy is from. So I know it seems a
Wow.
bit removed in terms of connections, but for those of us up north, we don't get a lot of connections to professional golfers. So just because of that relationship and seeing him on TV and succeeding with Abraham Answer, there are actual answer collectors where I live. And then lastly, Adrian Moronk. I don't think he has cards. However, he's a Polish golfer, tall guy, can hit it well. In Europe, a popular player. When Ludwig Oberg made the Ryder Cup, there was a lot of controversy in picking him over Adrian Moronk. I think Moronk he's had some success on the European tour, and this is the kind of guy that if he chooses to move to North America, I think he can make a splash on the PGA. So in terms of the Masters, I don't remember if he's qualified or not, but he's somebody who could be on absolutely nobody's radar, who could just magically make a top 10 finish.
Sure. Yeah. Abraham Answer is an interesting one here for me. Even though he only has one PGA Tour win, which was 2021, it was actually at the St. Jude. He's actually performed pretty well in the Masters as he's played in 2020, shot 8 under, finished T13, and then 2021 finished T26. So for someone that doesn't necessarily hit the ball a mile off the tee, he is accurate. He's a competitor, so I really like that pick there. Overall, I think we ran through a bunch of fantastic names here, and I'm excited to see how things do play out. One more name that I would feel awful if I didn't mention was Jordan Spieth, as someone that I believe was a favorite to win every time he tees it up at Augusta. If you run back from all his finishes, 2014 T2, 2015 he won, 2016 T2, 2017 T11, 2018 came in third, 2019 21st, 2020 came in 46th, 2021 T3. He missed the cut in 2022, but I mean the track record for Jordan Spieth is always there. It seems like no matter what kind of shape it seems like his game is in, even though it's in that always roller coaster state, I guess he's going to play well when he gets to Augusta. It feels like so. That's one more name I wanted to mention there, but overall, bunch of fantastic names from our guy Mike Lakusta, and excited to see how things play out. Is there anything else you wanted to add in terms of Masters Week?
Not in terms of Masters Week, but I love your pick there of Jordan Spieth. Speaking of guys who hit the scene running, he was, honestly, the only other golfers I can compare to Jordan at the beginning of their careers would be Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods. Jordan Spieth was the magician from Texas, an incredible golfer up till 2017. Still an incredible golfer, but kind of plateaued in terms of his wins. And I definitely could see a resurgence in his career. He doesn't have a ton of cards, but in 2016, he was in the Topps Chrome and Topps flagship sets in the first pitch insert set. So you could check out, he's got a cool refractor type card from there. He also has Sports Illustrated for Kids, and I think there's a third Jordan Spieth card out there from around the same time frame. I'm not gonna give an exact shout out, but there's a guy out there in the world who I'm continuing to stay connected with, who's got an amazing Jordan Spieth card that I would love to acquire someday. And I really enjoy talking to anyone who's passionate about golf and also passionate about sports cards. And Connor does a really good job staying humble and down to earth when we're chatting. But a mutual friend of ours told me that Connor actually had a pretty significant career in golf, and that's just one of his big passions in life. So I think hopefully Connor's going to be a guy I bring back on the pod, because that's definitely what our community is all about. All right, let's run through the card of the week and then wrap her up for today. Card of the week is a 2011 Goodwin Champions Tiger Woods patch card, just like last week, except that instead of showing the Ryder Cup with the sweater patch, this is a yellow patch. You don't see Tiger wear yellow too often, and he's wearing a white sweater in the picture. So, I know everybody always looks for those red Tiger Woods cards, red patches, but I think it's just as interesting to have kind of an off color that you're not used to seeing Tiger in. For those of you who don't know, I mean, Goodwin Champions, it's kind of like Topps, Allen, and Ginter in the sense that they have some really kind of quirky stylings, almost like how you'd imagine in the 1800s they would try to design a Declaration of Independence with all kind of squiggly letters and underlines and wavy banners with the words printed on them, almost as if there's some herald running through the city saying, "Hear ye, hear ye." And I hope that my audio here is doing it justice, but it's just kind of fun to have quirky cards like that. And it reminds me of our friend of the show, Jason over at Ginter Gold Fever, who's got an incredible collection from that kind of stylings. Basically, all he collects is Topps, Allen, and Ginter. And yeah, go check out his page, Ginter Gold Fever, if you like that kind of stuff. And that's it for today, folks. Thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, please tell a friend. But more importantly, enjoy Masters Week. Enjoy the pool. I hope that you're going to join us. And I'll talk to you next week.
Ridiculous golf card collector.